pass the drug test.
Here's the brutal truth about Tony Soprano. He didn't love anyone but himself. The relationship between Tony Soprano and Christopher Moltisanti was never a story of love. It was a long, excruciating exercise in manipulation, masquerading as mentorship.
I drove to work with my nephew, Christopher. He's learning the business.
On the surface, it appeared paternal. Christopher idolized Tony, pled for his approval, bled for his respect, and longed to matter in his eyes. Tony, ever the benevolent patriarch, granted him promotions, praise, and the occasional backhanded compliment. But beneath it all, their bond was hollow. It wasn't family. It was function. Christopher was never a person in Tony's world. He was a placeholder, a narrative device Tony needed to fulfill some delusional promise to Dickie Moltisanti, a man he romanticized into sainthood.
Yeah, I want to write for the movies. Goodfellas, shit like that.
Chris was the heir apparent, the symbol of legacy, until, of course, he began to develop inconvenient traits like ambition, independence, or a desire to stop killing people and start writing screenplays. What Tony couldn't tolerate was Christopher's inconvenient humanity. Every attempt Chris made to grow, particularly in his fight against addiction, was met not with support, but sabotage. Sobriety to Tony wasn't admirable. It was threatening. A sober Christopher might think clearly, speak freely, or worse, want out. And nothing infuriated Tony more than someone trying to escape the life he considered a prison and a throne in equal measure. Tony didn't want Christopher clean. He wanted him compliant.
Want a drink?
Offering him drinks, placing him in high-risk relapse situations, undermining his recovery. These weren't accidental missteps. They were calculated acts of emotional sabotage. A broken Christopher was malleable. A functioning Christopher was a liability.
I'll never pass the drug test.
The final nail in the coffin, both literally and symbolically, comes in the infamous car crash. Chris is gravely injured, incapacitated, and bleeding out.
That's some nutty shit that does it alike.
I did X once.
And Tony? He pauses, assesses, and casually snuffs him out, not out of necessity, but convenience. The justification, Christopher was unstable, a danger to the crew, is laughable. This was a mercy killing for Tony, not Chris. Mercy. From having to keep pretending he gave a damn. The tragedy lies not only in the killing, but in the quiet with which it was done. No emotion, no regret, just relief. Tony didn't love Christopher. He loved the idea of Christopher. Loyal, pliable, a legacy made flesh. But once the myth collapsed, so did Tony's patience. Of course, this pattern wasn't unique to Christopher.
Remind me, please, never to have a serious illness, because when you and Silvio and Paulie and all you pricks, weakness gets rid of fucking trees.
Tony's affections were always conditional, always transactional. Loyalty earned favor. Disobedience earned punishment. This was as true with his crew as with his family. Tony could feign empathy when it served his image, lavish gifts, superficial concern. But at his core, he was pathologically self-interested. The rare glimpses of affection, like passing into a pool to save AJ or grieving over Poyo Mai, were blips on the radar. Not proof of depth, but exceptions that proved the rule. The deeper irony is that Tony projected his own failings onto others with surgical precision. He mocked Christopher's creative ambitions, not because they were foolish, but because they reminded him of the dreams he never dared articulate.
Lately trying to play the concerned daughter. Who the fuck are you kidding? You're just here to pick the friggin' bones.
He ridiculed Janice, dismissed Meadows' aspirations, sabotaged Carmela's agency, not out of genuine contempt, but fear of their autonomy.
Me?
My own wife, 40 grand. From the bird feeder.
Bird feeder, listen to yourself. You sound demented.
Misery loves company, and Tony's brand of misery demanded everyone stay just as stuck, broken and compromised as he was. So was Christopher a liability? Absolutely. A drug-addled, self-destructive, impulsive mess.
Friends that would die for you. You understand me?
But he was also loyal, painfully, tragically loyal. He was never the boss Tony wanted, but he was the disciple Tony shaped. A Frankenstein's monster of dependency, delusion, and suppressed potential. And in the end, Tony killed him not because he failed, but because he dared, however briefly, to want something more. Tony Soprano didn't kill Christopher Moltisanti. He erased him. He deleted the last inconvenient remnant of his own humanity and then went on a peyote-fueled vacation to celebrate the peace of no longer pretending to care. "I get it," Tony declared in the desert. He wasn't talking about God, the universe, or spiritual clarity. He was talking about himself. He finally understood that morality was a luxury he could no longer afford. The great epiphany wasn't that life was sacred. It was that it was expendable. And Christopher, he was just next in line. This wasn't a tragedy about a man who couldn't change. It was a warning about what happens when someone stops pretending he ever wanted to. Tony didn't kill Christopher out of fear. He killed the last part of himself that could still feel. If that hit you like it hit me, hit like. I'm a Matthew, and this is Sopranos Breakdown, where every death means something.